I know for me, growing up in an urban community, you never talked about the effects of mental health or what you've seen every single day on a daily basis, affecting your mental health. You know, it was never a discussion during All-Star weekend, just being overwhelmed with everything that was going on. I put out a tweet expressing my depression. You know, it was just an emotional response. Really didn't expect too much of it. With me just sending out a tweet like that, opened up a whole nother door I never would have expected. Relief, freedom, inspiration to others that it's okay to go through things, to be vulnerable, to break down, be okay with figuring yourself out, speaking to other people, being vulnerable to other people. Life is always gonna test you. It's just about figuring out ways to get yourself out of that dark place when it feel like it comes, and that starts with having conversations. Some of the greatest conversations that I've ever had and witnessed was at a dinner table. It's fitting to be able to be in this position to have open heart dialogue about some real things that we deal with on a daily basis. So it's so much that could come from a dinner table conversation. I hope this project will, you know, spread hope, inspiration, and understanding that a dialogue of expressing and speaking out and telling your story is so inspirational.
Welcome to Dinners with DeMar. I got a special guest, somebody I look up to, admire, one of my favorite players, somebody I got the chance to compete against for a long, long time, had a 16-year NBA career, Hall of Famer, my dog, my big brother, my mentor, my neighbor, Dwyane Wade.
Love. First of all, thank you for inviting me to Dinner with DeMar.
Appreciate it.
This is pretty cool, man.
Means a lot. Be able to come next door, come chop it up with me, man. About, you know, I think a lot of important things that could get overlooked that, you know, we go through as athletes and, you know, as human beings and men in this world today. You know what I mean? I think it'd be a great conversation for us to just, you know, kick the shit like we always do. One thing I always had in mind, I always wanted to ask you, you know, just from your upbringing, you know, your whole story going to college, you know, having a child early, how was that a mental challenge for you in a sense? And how did you get through that part of it, well before you even thought about the NBA?
Yeah, man, I think most of the things, man, when you grow up in the community, you know, like we grew in, we grew up in, you process things internally. We don't really share our feelings. We're not, like I always talk about, we don't know how to be vulnerable. It wasn't passed down to us. And so, you know, when I had my son in college, like it messed me up first. You know, obviously, I'm thinking my life is over. Especially after everything I went through the year before, because I redshirted the year before that. I was finally getting my chance to play. Then I have a kid. And so now I got to process school, which is challenging. I got to process, you know, this basketball, which, you know, I want to be the best player. And then I got to process Zaire's mother and Zaire. And so I didn't know how to do it. I didn't have mentors to be able to help me at that time, or I didn't reach out to them. And so only thing I knew, bro, is I leaned on basketball so much. Like, that was my therapy, right? In a sense, is like, I just put everything into, like, anytime I was confused, anytime I needed answers, whatever, I just go to the ball, I just go to the game. And I go in the gym. And so, and then along the way, you know, my college coach started becoming even more important in my life. And I saw the father he was, and I was able to kind of start asking him questions about how do I deal with this versus this. But it was challenging. It definitely was challenging to have a kid in college while I'm trying to, you know, do all the things that, you know, a young man's supposed to do, is just, you know, go out and try to create his future. And so, yeah, it was tough.
I think a lot of people don't even realize how early a lot of stuff for us start when we start to sweep a lot of our own emotions underneath the rug. Mm-hmm. And a lot of those emotions don't come out till later on, where we may explode, or you may see another side from us and somebody may be like, man, where'd that come from? And where'd that stem from? Mm-hmm. I think I dealt with that a lot going to college. Obviously, like, I was shell shocked when I went to college, bro. Yeah. Like, growing up in Compton, all of a sudden, even though SC was 20 minutes away, right, it was a whole I was really like shell shocked, bro. And it took a toll on me. And like I struggled like my first probably month and a half in college.
Like homesick, that homesick
like
vibe?
everything. I'm homesick, even though I know I go 20 minutes away, but I'm also sitting around like intimidating people that I'm not used to sitting next to. Months before, I'm sitting next to, gang members, all this, and all of a sudden I'm sitting in college and I'm feeling intimidated by somebody next to me pulling out a laptop. Right. You never see nobody with a laptop. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. Somebody understanding how to go into an email, writing a paper. I'm talking about typing away. Right, you know what I mean? I'm just like, a lot of that was intimidating for me. Mm-hmm. And on the basketball court, I was such a star through high school, you could get away with so much. Mm-hmm. And college was the first time I had to deal with structure. And with that structure came a whole new mental challenge for me of knowing I can't use my athleticism. You know what I mean? Like all these guys bigger, stronger than me, faster. They know the college game. I always was a quiet kid.
You didn't ask a lot of questions?
Nah, I didn't ask. Right. I was just like, man, just put me through it. I remember I used to have so many long nights of just sitting in my dorm, just trying to figure it out. Yeah. And
so that played on your obviously on your mind.
It played on my mind so much. Then on top of it, I'm looking at it I'm feeding into the hype where everybody looking at it like, oh, he's one and done. He's going to the pros. But it's like I'm getting yelled at by the coach because I couldn't get a play right. You know what I mean? Or my first tournament, I'm getting 6-8 points, and I'm like, I really contemplate damn, I'm gonna have to come back to school.
So you were playing with that I gotta be one and done pressure.
Oh yeah. Before I played a game, in my mind, I'm like, they said I'm going lottery. I just gotta make it through these 4 or 5 months.
Wow. And you're playing at the same time, you the golden child that got out of the hood.
Man, so I'm dealing with all that. Yeah. On top of my whole family and my friends not knowing when I step in the court for practice, how I'm coach yelling at me, screaming at me, all this. But I'm walking out of practice, walking back to my dorm, and everybody excited for me just being in college for the season and not even having a clue what it is that I'm going through or what I feel mentally and emotionally. And a lot of that I swept under the rug. I was too ashamed or scared to ask somebody.
I think a part of that becomes a part of our greatness too, because we have an extra tank to tap into that maybe some others don't. A lot of that is that anger and that rage that come from what you don't understand, right? Or come from our background. And so same thing for me. I had so much going on at home, kid, then I got married, in college, all this going on, and then I got to be in class in theology, like I'm caring about that. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? All these things. And so, I don't know if you ever seen, if somebody hit me in my mouth or blood, I played better, right? I focused in because I was used to being able to reach to anger and knew how to form with anger. Kind of that tank that we had other people can't go to that makes you like, yo, he just went crazy. Well, sometimes we got that from our, what we go through. We just kind of put them over here in a sense, instead of dealing with them because we don't have a table of people to sit down and ask questions to, or sit down and hear how they dealt with things because we don't share.
Yeah. I always look up and admire people from a distance, and this is definitely one person throughout my career I was able to gain a relationship with. Always had the utmost respect for as a player, but more so as a human being. He was part of my imagination. Obviously, Kobe was my favorite player. Next in line of guys that I studied and I watched after that was, Dwyane, and be able to have the relationship I have with him, especially being my neighbor, it comes full circle to be able to do something like this.
I talk about Kevin Love. I talk about DeMar. I talk about these individuals in the NBA who, at a time where mental health wasn't maybe a sexy conversation for people to want to hear or listen about, these men stepped up and start talking about it. And so, which breeds confidence for other men to start talking about it. And so, important conversation for one. So, definitely want to make sure that I got an opportunity to come over here and sit down with him and see what he's doing and be a part of it.
One thing I try to express to a lot of young dudes is if they need any type of help, find therapy. How did you make that approach on accepting it? Because I think a lot of people, like you said, look at it like it's a stigma behind it. They feel weak if they do that. You know, how did you accept that and feel like that was a beneficial thing that'll help for you?
Yeah. I took the pressure off of what people presented therapy to me as. I remember being in the locker room and hearing some of my teammates have conversations about therapy, right? And I remember thinking when I would hear those conversations, like that's for the weak. Like, I'm not weak. I don't need nobody that don't know me to tell me nothing about myself, right? That was my mentality as a young person, because that's what we were told or taught, or what I seen, or I thought I needed to portray. And when I was retiring, I was like, okay, I never been to therapy really. My wife has introduced me to a few things along the way, but I never really been to therapy. And I was like, you know what? One thing I do know is, since basketball was my therapy, what am I gonna do with all this built up emotions that I normally will pour out onto the basketball floor, onto my opponents, my rage, my anger? Because what I do know is it's gonna go to the people next to you.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to do that to my family. Right? I didn't want to become that. And so I was like, all right, I need an outlet. I need someone to talk to about this. And that started my journey into what therapy was. Yeah. And then once I got into therapy, then I realized there was so many other ways, like then I was like, oh shit, I can meditate.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I can find somebody like a life coach. Yeah. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it goes so deep with so many different things that I've utilized, from therapy to yoga to, apps on your phone. Like I have all those things. I get up 3, 4 in the morning sometimes. I go sit out on the beach. Yeah. Yeah. Because I love the water, right? Like I need that solitude. And so I think, man, therapy kind of set me on a path to understanding that there's so many other things out here for you. And it ain't just basketball that you can let your emotions out. There's so many other ways to do it. And so that was my journey into it.
Man, that's a hell of a point. I think you put that out there in such a way, because so many people think when you think of therapy, it's just laying on the couch talking to somebody who got a book in their hand and they write something. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, so the way you just put it is such a great example that I'll be trying to explain to people too, because that was my approach too. I remember thinking therapy was just talk to somebody,
and that's a part of it.
Yeah, that's a part of it. That's
one form.
It's different forms that may be for you. You know what I mean? That may be a form for somebody that works for somebody, but there's so many other different forms that could work, that would be just as beneficial. And that's what helped me. Like I remember I found myself in the middle of fucking Montana in the open woods, and I heard nothing but natural sound, everything. And it brought me such a peace that I could never imagine. But it all came from just therapy and presenting something, trying something. Yeah. Try this meditation form of doing this. And when you do this, and I'm in the middle of Montana. Yeah. Like, I never in my life would have thought I'd be in Montana and having the time of my life, enjoying the experience that I was going through. You know what I mean? And nobody will believe me when I told them.
I know they won't.
You feel me? I'm
there's people right now that's gonna watch it. I'm like, come on, DeMar, come on, you getting that check? Like, you know what I'm saying?
I got it's once a week. I look at the pictures, and just reflect on that moment when I was there. Then you know what I did after that? I found myself the previous summer, I'm in Wyoming, doing the same thing, finding a whole different solitude, like you said, and a different type of meditation of understanding what therapy and self-help really was. Yeah. It went so far for me, it was just helping me with my maturity, my understanding of life, and my just taking a moment for myself. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And all that shit came through form of therapy. So you putting it like that gave the best example what it is, because I think people just get caught up in just thinking you talking to somebody you don't know.
Yeah, and it's a stigma. You know what I'm saying? And it's a lot of stigmas in this world. And I think once you go find your own information, right? I think the one thing we need to do more as men is we need to go find our own information, even just as humans, period. You know what I'm saying? And the one thing that's scary about therapy is you actually got to sit with you. People don't want to go to therapy because they don't want to look at that mirror, bro. That mirror tells everything. And that's the one thing that I discovered throughout this process as I'm discovering myself as a man, is these moments of being in the middle of the woods in Wyoming or Montana. It's just you. It ain't nobody else. And so you got to sit with you, your thoughts, your feelings about yourself. All, you know what I'm saying? Because the world can make DeMar seem like a superhero. But when you sitting with DeMar, you get the real DeMar. You feel me? And so it's beauty in that though. As you're trying to grow, as you're trying to become whoever you were put on this earth to be, you have to know you. And so to go back to therapy, that's therapy. It's not just sitting on the couch and someone listening to you talk about your past. It's you learning about your past, learning about your now, and then getting a chance to have solitude so you can focus on what your future gonna be. You know what I mean? Clean a lot of things out. And so, bro, I love it. A lot of times we probably up at the same time,
That's what I'm
like going
saying,
through
yeah.
what therapy is.
Same thing, bro.
For sure.
And that's crazy you said that, because it's just, I always told myself, like, I didn't want to be an angry black rich man when I retire. I didn't want to be that. I didn't want to be no grumpy old motherfucker when I retire. Like, that's all I used to tell myself. I don't want to have a bunch of money and be grumpy. Yeah. I didn't want to be that, because I felt myself going towards that way until I just like let go of so much shit that I was just holding in. And that just led me to be fucking floating down a fucking river in Montana, like in a little boat, fly fishing, doing a whole bunch of shit that people would never fathom that I do. You know what I mean? Because it's easier for me to channel whatever internal aggression I had in when it's time to go to work. It's easy now. Right. You know what I mean? Because I understand it. It's not so chaotic of an emotion. You know what I mean? Now I know how to hone in on it. You know what I mean? Because I know what freedom in a peaceful spirit may feel like. And granted, I still got a long fucking way to go, but just feeling it a little give you even more hope of understanding so much growth that we don't even understand yet. You know what I mean? Yeah, especially,
I write a lot. That's therapy to me. You know, when I'm on, especially when I get on planes, I have like a lot of like black books and all these books, and I just write like whatever I'm thinking, whatever I just did, and it's therapy. It's therapeutic to me to sit there and put words together and create a story or talk about. You know what I'm saying? That's what we talk about. Like when it comes to therapy, it's so many different ways to be able to deal with what your wellness needs are, right? Like we all have different wellness needs, and it's like it's just like men. We're afraid to go to the doctor. Don't be afraid. Go find out what's wrong, so you can be around for your people, right? You know what I'm saying? So you can take care of it. And so therapy, in that sense, is like don't be afraid of what's been positioned as therapy. Find out what's for you. Find out what that wellness is for you so you can become a better person.
When did you realize you needed a great support system around you?
Well, I want to say I've always had one. That's one of the things that's been like a blessing for me, actually, is the people I've had in my life. Now, I would say probably right now at this time in my life is probably the most important time for me, right? Because I don't have hoop no more. Like hoop can cover up a lot of things. And because I don't have hoop to cover up things no more, now I got to deal with I got to deal with life. You know what I'm saying? And so I love the fact that my support system is there. Like obviously my family is, you know, your family gonna be there. But man, I've put like good grown men in my life. And I think as a man, we need other men in our lives, right? And all of us are not fortunate enough to have certain relationships with our dads or whatever the case may be. But man, when you get older, finding men that have went through, that can go through, that you will listen to, that will listen to you, like having that's probably one of the best things I've done. I mean, you get to see like my old heads, like Chef and like Dre and Chris, and we all can be vulnerable together. We've all shed tears in front of each other, and we all call each other out on things. We all make, you know, we're guys, but having men that you feel comfortable enough to be vulnerable with, to share things with. Since I retired from the NBA, is one of my biggest things that's brought comfort to me because like I'm okay with being weak then, like because you know it's, like we don't want to be weak, but I'm actually got the minute I'm okay with being like, yo, I don't know this, or you know someone telling me, hey, you ain't doing X, Y, and Z, you should do that. You know what I mean? Like we got that kind of relationship where my chef can be like, yo, you need to take care of this. You focusing too much time over there, and so I think as well as your family is going to be there for you, man. I think you know you got to find like that real circle of people who are not only you feeding them, but they feeding you back.
One thing that was a struggle for me was like, everybody will want to be there for you as a support system, but they also try to use that entitlement role as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which cause you to have to weed a lot of stuff out. When and how did you deal with that when you start to feel, a lot of the entitlement role started to be played?
Yeah, I think people weed themselves out though.
But yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it will show. You don't have to. I mean, obviously you have to be aware of it, but people truths come out, and I think the strong survive. And so, like in my life right now, and also too understanding, bro, is like it's a season for a lot of people too. You feel me? A season can go 16, like my NBA career, or the season could be one season. And so I think understanding that, being aware of that, trying to understand what someone's season has aspired in your life is one of the hardest things to do. But that's something, as you get older, you're gonna have to do and you're gonna want to do. A lot of men are not secure enough to, have vulnerable conversations with their close people, let alone cameras and in the world. And so, I respect that so much because, I'm someone who has to have those vulnerable conversations in front of the world. And people act like they don't want to hear them. But these are real life, situations and real life things that's happening. And so, you give a guy like DeMar, you give guys who are not afraid to use their platform and not afraid to step up and step outside of what people know them for. A lot of credit.
All the people that's just getting caught up in, this whole believing in stigmas and looking past certain things we may speak about. How can we help those people better understand and be more educated in believing that it do work?
Well, I mean, obviously first this right here, just having a conversation about it. When people look at you, they look at us as athletes, as, we're immortal in a sense, right? Like we're superheroes. And then we start talking about these things. Man, this is just real life. This ain't nobody getting, ain't nobody getting nothing out of this. When we talk about what we have to deal with as humans in this life. And in the midst of that, taking care of your wellness is going to be important. Everyone wants to focus on the things that everyone else see to give them compliments. You know what I'm saying? Dudes being a barber all the time. Women go get their hair done all the time, right? Anything that's on the outside that's going to give you compliments, we focus on. But this is what we talk. This is inside. This is the entire being. This is a holistic conversation that we're having. And so, for people out there that think it's just a trend, just look in the mirror and understand, like, we all go through things. We all deal with things. And, how it comes out, you can do some things to control it, right? You get some people who don't get the right help that they need and they can't control how anger or rage or, anything comes out. Well, what we're talking about is just ways to be able to control it because things are going to happen. Rain, it will rain, right? Like, I don't care how you go, it will be moments where you come back down. And these are just tools and outlets to be able to do that. It's not no, you know what I mean? I don't know why people even be skeptical about understanding that life is hard.
Yeah.
No one knows how to deal with it. We all are swinging in the dark. And so in the midst of that, these are some outlets to help you deal with things and try to make it as beautiful as you would make your outing.
And that's the most important thing. You know what I mean? I think for the longest, people look at us like we had their money, we'd be fine.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I get it. I thought that too.
Yeah.
Give me the
too,
money, baby.
Man.
And I ain't saying nothing wrong with it. I'm just saying, like, it's more to life.
No, it's definitely more to it. And I think so many people just think we got the answers with thinking money is just the answer. It helps, it definitely give other opportunities. But for the most part, the more stories you hear from people you think are superheroes, the more normalized they'll be in understanding that we all go through some real stuff and getting help is okay. You know what I mean? Whatever way you need to figure that out. But like you said, we all, at some point, you're gonna have to look yourself in the mirror.
Keep living.
You got to. You know what
living.
I mean? You can't be naive through the fact of, like, life is going to life.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not prepared for it, you're gonna end up in, a worst case scenario that, we trying to prevent by being able to have these conversations and being vulnerable and giving a helping hand. You know what I mean? And that's one thing I want to normalize even more so than anything, because being in the league for so long and being in the locker room with guys that go through real shit, like it don't stop. You know what I mean? From personal stuff to family stuff to relationship stuff. People go through some real shit that people just so quick to look past us because we put on a jersey to go play a basketball game.
Right.
You know what I mean?
As soon as you put that jersey on,
it's like,
you become someone that shouldn't deal with none of
somebody
this.
you not. Like, I'm pretty sure it's more of us the same as that person sitting in section 105, blah, blah, blah. I'm telling you, you know what I mean? And once that's more understood, the appreciation for players will be even at an all-time high level, because you looking at us more than just athletes. Mm-hmm. And with that, you'll give more players the more confidence and willingness to be vulnerable. You know what I mean? A lot of us still pull off this hard, aggressive mojo when we around, when we in the arena, because, you got to have this disdain of like, man, you better not say shit to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like, yo, I'm a human being. And I think a lot of that, with our emotions, we start to, normalize pain. And it really don't play a factor till later on down the line when you start to do certain things, or certain elements come out of you where you just got to look at yourself too, like, man, what the fuck? Why I'm like that? You know what I mean? And that's one thing that I did when I came out, just to talk about feeling depressed and everything. It took me till I was 27, you know what I mean? Because it was just like, I used to really sit there and wonder, like, why the fuck am I so mad? Like, I hate everything. I'm frustrated with everything. And I'm not even around nobody. You know what I mean? Like, and I really just had to take a look at myself and everything around me and try to figure out where all these emotions stem from. And a lot of them come from me just sweeping so much shit underneath the rug when I was a teenager. And as soon as you get drafted, it's no sitting down. It's like.
And I think the one thing about what you've done, and other players who spoke out, you've allowed, people that you probably will never meet, you've given them some confidence to actually tap into, what's not weakness, but what is that vulnerable space, right? And give themselves grace to understand that we all go through things, right? And, when you process things internally, as some of us do, you're going to have a lot of, challenges. And so I commend you for being one of the voices to say, like, hey, listen, like, I am this, but I'm also this. And it doesn't take anything away from me being, what the world has gotten to know DeMar about, right? From an all-star, from everything he's done. So that's big, because we need that. We need leaders, bro.
Yeah.
So I just want to give you that love.
Appreciate that. And it's so crazy you even say that, because I was talking to my partner the other day of, like, I always so curious about people I looked up to. So I used to always, like, pay attention to their story, how they made it, how they got big, and I always found inspiration through that. Mm-hmm. And I think the more people able to show that they human, do so much, for people. Because I remember growing up, I was such a Laker fan, right? I always wanted to know, like, how Nick Van Exel talked. I remember always watching, like, man, he always out here killing, always wanted. So I used to wait till after the game. He have a good game, he do the post-game interview. I always used to look forward to that, because that gave me a different insight of him. You know what I mean? So next thing you know, I remember getting the paper and want to, read what he said. And if it's any type of intel he could give me about where he come from or why he had a good game, or, he dedicated this game to a family member, to me, that was like inspiration, because that made him such a human to me that was dope, because I wanted to know more about my favorite players that I watched. And a lot of times with that, it gave me that extra drive I needed, knowing I could make it. Yeah. That's what gave me the confidence when I came out. Was like, I've been through so much shit, and I hid so much shit behind pain and frustration that drove me. Man, what about if somebody who can't handle that same pain and aggression that they got to go through, and it's forcing them to take a different route? You know what I mean? So if I could be an inspiration, or if anybody could be an inspiration to somebody, it's so beneficial. And I hate that it's such a stigma on, being vulnerable. You know what I mean? Because shit, we all human at the end of the day, man. Like, I know even for me now, like I find myself being more appreciative of fans. You know what I mean? If I see a fan, you know what I mean, I sit there, dap a fan up, hug a fan, you know what I mean? Show their appreciation back. So that person can be like, man, that's a real person right there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Not whatever you think I am. I'm really a real person. You know what I mean? So me having a conversation, or you feeling the energy that I'm coming from, that I'm a genuine person, that goes a long way. And that's what these conversations are meant to do as well. You know, this is a genuine thing. You know, like I said, we ain't getting nothing from this. You know what I mean? If I go home, I'm gonna go in the house, we're gonna do the same shit and wake up tomorrow and hope that, you know, everything we prepared ourselves for, we can handle.
Yeah.
But, you know what I mean? I just want everybody to understand, like, you know, we all gonna go through some shit. Take care of yourself. It's okay to take care of yourself. Find the best way to be able to take care of yourself, not just for yourself, but for your friends, your family, or somebody else who next to you that's hiding something that they don't want to express because they feel some type of way or are scared to be vulnerable.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You could be that place for them.
You could be that place for them.
You know what I'm saying? I think a lot of it is understanding is this is just some of the things that you can do to put in the work.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it guarantees nothing still, right? Like you could put in the work in the gym, it don't guarantee that you're gonna have an all-star year.
Right.
And so we're just talking about the basics of the work that needs to be put in.
Yeah.
But in the midst of that, understanding that it doesn't guarantee that you won't go through things in life.
Yeah.
That you won't have, you know, outbursts or moments that, you know, are unlike you or whatever the case may be as we go through life. So you got to at least do this to even give yourself a chance.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? When it comes to dealing with life. Because like you said, life gon' life. Mm-hmm. And as much as you think, oh, I got it, you don't know from one minute to the next what's gonna happen. And so give yourself a chance, you know what I'm saying, to be able to deal with it, or give yourself a chance to understand the things that can help you deal with it. It ain't even about the stresses. It's just about understanding that we're humans in life and life gon' life. And so you gotta be prepared as much as you can. Yeah. And so these are the things that help you be prepared.
Right, exactly. Being a parent, I think that gives me a different empathy and understanding, because it was a lot of that I wish I had early on. Granted, it helped. I remember being in games. I used to hate when my dad used to be at games and I'd be at the free throw line. He used to be yelling at me from the stands, yelling at me. You better not miss. You better not miss a fucking free throw. Like, you owe me $5 if you miss a free throw. Like, it was that ever since I was young. And I remember I used to get so mad, and I used to turn around like, man, leave me alone. But next thing you know, I run off 25 straight.
Yeah.
And it's like.
So how would you tell a kid to deal with that? Like, now that if you went and saw a kid with that father, and you saw him being like you saw yourself, how would you tell him to deal with it?
I think the understanding of why someone is trying to force you to dig down. They see something in you, for one, right?
Well, they know something about themselves that's in you too.
Exactly.
Right.
And I think helping people understand that instead of feeling like they're getting attacked will be more beneficial, because it's something in you that you don't see that you have in you.
Right.
That everybody's just trying to tap in and trying to get that out of you. You know what I mean? And I think we never just catch on to it. Because I never caught on to it. Why my dad make me mad every time I play? Yeah. I never caught on to that until I was grown.
Because he knew you had that. He knew you had that extra.
You know what I mean? And it took for me to find a different appreciation when I was older why he was doing that. You know what I mean? But for some, I seen it break some people, because maybe it wasn't executed right. Maybe it wasn't enough love on the back end of it after you do that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Or trying to get them to understand it why you did it. It's a lot of times, you know, with my kids, when I do something and they may feel a way, I explain it to them afterwards.
Oh, our parents didn't explain.
You see what I'm saying? No, we didn't.
That wasn't a part of the
at all.
Not our generation. I mean? No, they ain't explaining nothing
at all.
I mean, a lot of it stems from, you know, just the story before us, the community before us. Like I always say this, like I talk about like my parents and the understanding that the generations before us, or even parents that are in the struggle, unlike us, they ain't had time to wait on you to figure out what you want to be. Hey, I need help with these bills. Y'all eating up all my food. Like, and so, you know, my dad, you know, he kind of forced me into playing sports, right? And look how it turned out. But at the time, like I cried my way into it, like every time. But like you said, once again, he saw something in me that I didn't. And I talked about that in my Hall of Fame speech.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I remember I said I couldn't do it. He was like, no, you can.
Yeah.
And then eventually eventually showed me I could. But I think understanding the people before us is knowing that they probably went into certain situations to be able to send their kids to certain places or send their kids to therapy or do the things that we're able to do so they can sit down and listen to their kids.
Yeah.
Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're just not the school they were from.
Yeah.
And so I do know some of the benefits that we have is, you know, the hard work that we put out there so our families can live a certain life allows us to be able to now listen to our kids differently than our parents. And it ain't because we don't need nothing from them. We don't need them to go out and do anything to help the family eat. And so that's a benefit that we have, and I'm thankful for that.
Yeah.
Feel me?
And even with that, it's like, it make me think how can it be beneficial for the ones that don't have the opportunity that we have? You know what I mean? Because there's so many people that, you know, family members or friends that I know that in a completely different situation, you know what I mean? And even being able to have conversations with them of helping them trying to understand to be a better parent to their kids, because they, you know, they may not have the same ability to be able to take care of sin or put their kids in everything that, you know, we may be able to. But with that, how can you have those conversations and make your friend or family member be vulnerable enough to take advice so you can help them? You know what I mean? I think the more that is done, either you could kind of combat a lot of stuff that we went through. You know what I mean? And that's one thing I kind of like just been paying attention to more and more. You know what I mean? I think that's just like the friend I am, you know what I mean? Of people that I know, and you know, I never wanted anybody to feel less than or ashamed in any type of way. You know what I mean? Because I always tell people, I remember growing up, we didn't have a refrigerator. We had a cooler, and every 3-4 days we had to go to a gas station, get ice, fill a cooler up, keep the sandwich meat, keep the milk, keep the water cold. You know what I mean? And it's like, I come from that. You know what I mean? Like, not having furniture until I was 11, 12 years old. You know what I mean? So it's like, for me, I just always want people to find that inner confidence within themselves to be able to have the hard conversations. Because a lot of times those hard conversations become therapeutic, and you can find so much confidence with that to push that extra length you need to, instead of feeling ashamed and feeling like, nah, I'm not going to do this. So I'm gonna go hide over here and sweep everything under the rug before you have a outburst.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a firm believer, man. Just I guess as a parent, you don't know if you've done it right until they get to their 40s or something like that. But, you know, for me, man, when it comes to my kids, you know, just the way I've always approached it is we don't have time for fairy tales. And I know that, you know, each parent have their own way, right? And so I don't say what's right or wrong, but the way I've had to raise my kids is there ain't no Santa Claus in my house. You know what I mean? We got to go get it. We got to go get it ourselves. Any gift you want, we got to go work to get this. But along the way, like, I've always just had honest and open conversations. And because I look at it like, in life, who are the people that I've fucked with the most? It's been my friends. It's been the people I've chosen as my friends because they've been honest with me. And so I just want, all I'm going to ever do with my kids is be honest. And so our conversations are direct. You know what I'm saying? And like, we have to have that, you know, and I tell Zaire, listen, it ain't about me trying to hurt feelings or about me trying to, you know, say certain things a certain way. I just got to be honest. And in the midst of that, understanding this honesty is coming from a place of love, but like, this is how we got to get it. This is life. This is real life. And so, man, we communicate straight up. And like, my parents didn't communicate like that. Like, my dad would never come in my room and sit in a chair in my room and talk to me about anything for 2 hours. But I make this a part of my daily schedule to say, okay, I need to spend time with this. I need to spend time with this kid. I need to, you know, go in Zaire's room for 2 hours, just listen to her talk, what you got going on. And so I think, like, even when it comes to your kids, you know, giving them a space that they feel that you are a real person. Because when you have parents, your parents are, you know, you look at them as kings and queens, right? That's kind of, and you want that, but also too, like, sometimes that position takes the humanity out of someone. And so I want my kids to know, like, I'm human and I share my mistakes, you know, at the same time that I feel that they can understand with them, to let them know we're human. You know what I'm saying? And you don't have to be what the world says perfect. Your dad's not. whatever the case may be. And so like just as a parent, man, to help my kids to have an outlet to be able to understand their wellness and their health, especially mentally, it has to start here first.
That's even learning and hearing you say that it's like such a learning tool that so many people could take from, because you know that old school was so old school. Like I never had those same talks like with my parents either. You know what I mean? I always felt like I had to be grown so early. Like whatever I felt, I couldn't feel it. You know what I mean? And having kids gave me a whole different emotion of just trying to like be there. You know what I mean? Even now, like I try to like take my kids one at a time now. You know what I mean? Like spend individual time with one another. You know what I mean? Really understand what they like, what they don't like, what they love, make them feel their own connection. You know what I mean? Because that goes so far, because, you know, you can see at times, there's been times, you know, I've been just chilling with my kids and, you know, I'm talking to one and the other one asks me something, but I'm trying to focus on one and the other one get mad. Next thing you know, she in her room and it's like, man, what's wrong with your sister? You go in a room, she's sitting in her room, just sitting to herself like, you wasn't listening to me. And, you know, now it's like, baby, you know what I mean? It changes the whole thing. You know what I mean? Like now it's like, tell me what's wrong. Right. All right, cool. So those instances for me is things that taught me, because it's like, you know, it's so easy to look over that and think nothing of it, but not to the kids, not to the babies. And so when my daughter first did that, they always let me know, like, pay attention to them, be able to have conversation with them, give them the confidence that they need to be able to want to talk to you back and tell me what they feel, so they can feel comfortable. You know what I mean?
They're going to need that in the world.
Yeah.
You're going to need to be able to have those conversations with people.
You have to, you know what I mean? And that was such a learning tool. And I had to go through it to realize it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know. Like,
at least you noticed it, first of all. You know what I mean?
You feel it. You know what I mean? It's a different emotion that you feel that you got to understand. Like, all right, they have, no matter how young they are, they see everything, pay attention to everything. Everything, bro. Everything. You know what I mean? So
I was just talking to Zaya before when I got home today, and you know, she's a junior. Mm-hmm. And your junior is your hardest year. Right? Yeah. And like she was just saying, like, everything is on her, right? She ACT and, you know, all the things she need to do. And I was like, in the midst of, I said, have you scheduled your appointment with your therapist? Yeah. Because you make sure as you're going through all this, you have your outlet, right? Like I was just like, and I told her, I said, when Pop's home, I'm always an outlet for you. We can always get in the car, we can go somewhere, we can vibe, chill. But you also make sure you have your own personal outlet. Yeah. You know what I mean? And like that was not, we're breeding that into our kids, right? And she's like, yeah, Dad, I've already set my appointment for Thursday, whatever the case may be. And so I never, we just, like I said, we just had to hoop. Like, you know what I'm saying? My personal outlet was get the ball and just go hoop. And so just such a different time, man. But like utilizing, you know, I think what we know and allowing our kids to be able to benefit from what we know. Yeah. And like I said, I guess we'll find out about it.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm definitely looking forward to it. But it's like, it's such a, this thing of life is such a crazy thing. And like, one thing that I struggle with that I wanted to talk to you about was like, you know, the time we had to put in to our playing careers, missing so much valuable time with the kids and the family. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like how was that a challenge, and how did you balance that, you know, throughout your playing days?
Yeah, I don't think I did a good job of it.
I agree. You know I'm with you on that. Like real.
Like I always give my wife and I give my kids all the credit. Like they are the real MVPs, right? Yeah. Because, you know, even though, you know, we're off doing what we do, my wife's the same at the crib. We all trying to create something so our kids can have a certain lifestyle that we want them to have, and that, you know, later on they will appreciate. But in the midst of it, you miss so much, right? And you can't. It's this thing of like, what do I do? And so I decided I'm gonna give this right now. Yeah. But when I'm able to give this, I will. And so now, since retirement, like I make it my business to, my schedule is dating my kids. Right. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like tomorrow, me and Cobb going on a date. Yeah. Like we already got it planned. And so the times I miss, I was off doing something respectfully. They understand that, and there's nothing I can do about that. But now, the memories that I can create now, these moments is what really matters to me. I can't, you know what I'm saying? Like you can't have it all. Nah, in a sense. Sure. And so I think you have to be okay with understanding that you're going to miss out on some things because
Yeah.
you're creating something.
Yeah.
But at some point, once you retire from basketball, bro, you're going to be so young
Yeah.
that you're going to have so much time
much
to be
time,
able
yeah.
to actually get to know them in the way that you
Yeah.
actually will be able to now,
Yeah.
because basketball, you so focused on that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Trying to be great. And so, but I've made it my duty to say, all right, I'm done playing the last 4 or 5 years. My relationship with my kids have changed
Yeah.
a lot because
Yeah.
I put more time into
yeah.
what they want to do.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not just like, hey,
Yeah.
come and watch dad play
Right.
basketball.
Yeah, yeah.
You
And
know what I'm saying?
I don't think people understand how hard that is for us too. Like leaving kids for road trips or time on end, and like that takes a toll, you know what I mean? Especially when, you know, I don't think people understand how much downtime we really have when we gone too. You know what I mean? Being on the road, sitting in a room, missing something with your kids, and you know what I mean, you in fucking Memphis and sitting in a Westin hotel just missing something to do with your kids. You know what I mean? I think for me that always kind of been like my biggest challenge since I've been playing, and just missing so much. You know what I mean? Because the kids fully don't understand. You know what I mean? All they care about is daddy. I want my dad. You know what I mean? Like even it's been times I told the girls, I was like, you know, daddy going back to work. So, all right, can you come back on the weekends? You know what I mean? It's like it don't work.
Yeah,
you know? It don't work.
It hit your
you know what I mean? It hit
heartstrings.
different. You know
Yeah,
what I
it
mean?
hit your
It's
heartstrings.
been times, like, I remember last year I struggled. It was a time, you know, my second oldest daughter had, you know, said something about, you know, all my friends' dad was at the dance. You know what I mean? It's like, I gotta go get ready for this game. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, the emotional roller coaster that brings right before you go play a game, you know what I mean, becomes heavy. You know what I mean? Because you feel like you're missing something with your baby. You want to be there. You want to have those moments. And, you know, a lot of times I even tell a lot of the youngsters, it's like, yo, you know, you got to enjoy it, because when you take on real responsibilities, real feelings, and a lot of stuff come with that becomes heavy, and you're going to have to find out quick how to balance it, especially if you want to be good.
One of the biggest things I always tell my kids, you got to know how to manage your time. Because if you don't know how to manage your time correctly to do all the things that you need to do, and then the things you want to do, like you're gonna be hearing a lot of voices in your head.
Yeah.
It's gonna be too much going on, and so that's one thing. Like even now for me, man, I'm about time management. When I get up in the morning, I'm like they say on an airplane, put my mask on first.
Yeah.
I make sure I have time to put my mask on first before I give myself to the world, to my kids, to my family. And so if I get up at 7, I might need to get up at 5. Because if I get up at 7, I'm only gonna be able to do this. But if I get up at 5, I could do this, and still be there. You know what I'm saying? And so like I've had to adjust kind of what I thought retirement was gonna be like, to be able to do all the things I need to do for my family, but also for myself, which is the most important thing, is putting your mask on first. You can't help anybody else if you don't get your oxygen. And so that's the one thing that is super important. And also along the way, you're gonna realize as your kids get older, they're gonna stop calling you. They're gonna start worrying about what the heck you got going on. I got a 21-year-old.
Yeah.
I can't catch up with him for nothing.
See?
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and so
yeah.
like you worry about so much because you miss so many moments. Then they get to a certain age, they be like, yo, peace.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
See?
saying?
Yeah.
So it's a balance, man. You know, it's a balance. But like my dad's 66, I'm 41. Now, like, we love being able to
For
catch
sure.
those
I mean, but
moments.
that's even dope.
You
Even
know?
at the Hall of Fame speech, I remember watching it. Like, to me, like, that's so dope to watch, bro, and witness. You know what I mean? Because it's like, it's. I know for me, like, I lost my dad 3 years ago, but my dad was like how y'all was, and that shit was so dope just to witness and see, because it's like, you know, as I got older, my dad was more of like, you know, I could tell I finally had made him proud. You know what I mean? It's like, man, you did it, man. See all that hard shit I see it paid off. And you know, I remember sitting there and having conversations with my dad. I remember I always used to steal my dad's car when I was in high school, right? To the point to where he used to think the neighbors was ciphering his gas. Like he was about to fight the neighbors, all type of shit, right?
He thought he was ciphering his gas.
he thought the neighbors
Thought he was coming pumping some gas out?
every night. I'm talking about he used to be in the window waiting. He just knew it was the neighbors, right? So I had this whole little method how I used to take his car. We stayed by a train station. So 11 o'clock on the dot every single night, my dad getting in bed every night, like clockwork. So about 11:05, I go downstairs, take the keys. I get in the car, wait till a train go by, start up the car, back up real quick.
Out.
Right?
Ooh.
I'm out. Be out to like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Never know, right? So, but the whole time I just like, my dad will kill me if he ever found that out, right? I used to be terrified of my dad. I remember getting to the point where I was in the lead and we started to have that relationship. I remember I'm telling him like, Dad, you know I used to steal your car when I was a junior in high school, like every other night? He had no clue. And we sat there and laughed and enjoyed the moment and everything. But it was so dope that, you know, he was able to witness me become who I became. You know what I mean? So even like when he passed, it was like, I felt like he was at ease. More so of like him just knowing like, man, I got you to this point. It's on you now.
And that helped you.
And that helped me. You know what I mean? Like it helped me on a whole different level because it made everything he prepared me for before I made it make sense. You know what I mean? Why he was so hard on me. Why? I remember when he was 12, he had a stroke. My mama took me to the hospital. We get to the hospital. And the first thing he said to me, he said, man, I ain't gonna die yet. I gotta make sure you make it. Never forget. Like, how the fuck you worried about this? Like, you know what I mean? But it's like, that was the strength he had. So I remember watching your Hall of Fame speech and seeing that, it was like, yo, that's what it's all about. You know what I mean? Like those moments like that, that's what it's all about.
That's what all this is about.
Just to see the strength and everything that we go through it for that exact reason. That spoke volume to, you know, what it is that we go through. Because that moment right there, I know you made it all make sense. You know what I mean? Had a family there, had this. It's like, yo, all this shit makes sense.
Yeah.
It was all worth
Everything
it. The
came
good,
together.
the bad, everything.
Yeah. I remember when I first saw him on the scout report, and it was just like, don't turn your head on him, he'll be gone. That's all it really said. And I was like, all right. So I was guarding this young guy, and I turned my head, and he was gone. But he was gone up there. And so immediately, you know, for me, a guy who, you know, that was playing the same position as me, you know, I saw his athleticism. You know, I saw his ability to be able to read the game in a certain way. So I just took a liking to him, you know, and just wanted to watch his career. And we got an opportunity to have battles. And so I watched him grow. And I started watching him become like, you know, that all-star in the league. And so it's cool when you get to see it that way. You get to see a guy come in, like Paul George came in that way, where he was just a guy in the corner and then became the guy, you know, at the all-star in the locker room with you, you know. And so just watching his growth that way, watching his growth as a man, you know, I obviously met him when he was young. Now I see him as a father, you know, I get to hear him, you know, in the pool with his kids, you know, when I'm outside. And so just watching his growth as a man as well, it's just cool to see.
You know, being able to compete against him throughout my whole career and just seeing, you know, his growth as a person, as a human, as a basketball player, and seeing his transition from, you know, playing against him in playoff series to, you know, watching his transition over to retirement, ownership of NBA team. It's amazing to be able to look at somebody and have a relationship with a person like that I could go to and ask. You know, I remember asking him about how the whole ownership thing worked. You know, how was retirement? You know, leading up into his retirement, his last year playing against each other. You know, all these things that at one point I'm gonna have to get to. You know, and just helping me understand and prepare for those moments as a player and just as a man after that too. So, how would your past life before therapy explain you after therapy?
Maybe like, I think I take a little bit more like beat when like, I don't respond as quick no more. Like I will come right back with an answer fast. Now I'm like, all right, let me just shut up. Let me listen. Okay, let me shut up again. You know what I mean? Because it's a lot of times someone says something, you already got an answer. And I know me, I got an answer. Therapy has allowed me to be like, you know what? Listen, take a beat. You know what I mean? It's you ain't the only one talking. You ain't the only one that got an opinion. And I think a lot of times we think we are the main character in every room. And sometimes you're not. And I think therapy has given me that grace to be able to be like, no, it's not your moment. Sometimes don't give advice. Just listen. And all these kind of different, you know, tools.
Same. I think the same for me too, because before it was either I was either so hot and cold before, you know, I really started to get in therapy. It's either I'm like on 1,000 or I'm just all the way checked out. You know what I mean? And I think after therapy has just helped me to find that balance and be able to give energy to what was needed. You know what I mean? When before it was either I give my energy 100% to something that don't deserve it, or vice versa. You know what I mean? Like for me, like it gave me a balance. Like you said, just make me feel like just shut up, just listen, take the advice. You know what I mean? Don't feel like you got to have an answer to everything. You know what I mean? Like, and that gave me a whole different calm. Like you said, just to sit back and just soak in at times, and not feel like I gotta know it all right then and there. You know what I mean? So, man, big homie, the appreciation, love, the admiration I had for you since day one, man. To be able to see this thing come full circle, us to be sitting at the crib next door to each other, just walk over, be able to do something like this, man, is a cool moment. I appreciate it. It means the world to me to be able to do this, share our story, and hopes to help anybody out there, kid, grown up, anybody out there just, going through anything. It means a lot to me. This type of stuff for me is much bigger than the points we done scored, the games we done played. Just being able to try to, move the world in a different way, any way we can, means a lot to me, dog.
Thanks for having me a part of it, man. Part of this conversation.
Appreciate you.
Love.